The moon screamed. Monroe Castellanos realized he was about to die, not the slow death he'd been courting for 3 months in this metal coffin, hiding from what he'd done on Titan. This was immediate, final, the kind of death that starts with impossible sounds and vacuum and ends with your name on a casualty report nobody reads. Coffee droplets hung frozen around his head as the seismic alarm shrieked through Station 7's cramped monitoring room. Every sensor array painted the same impossible picture. Something 3 kilometers below had just answered back. "Leader," his voice came out steady, which surprised him. "Tell me that drill hit a gas pocket." Silence stretched 5 seconds too long. Lead AS response protocols had a 0.3-second maximum delay. "Always, Monroe." Her voice carried a strange weight, like she was choosing each word from a foreign language. "The drilling operation has breached a structure of unknown composition." Unknown composition was leader speak for this shouldn't exist. Monroe kicked off his chair, floating toward the scanner array. The deep-core mining drill had been chewing through lunar bedrock for 6 weeks, following a titanium vein that would keep the lights on for another month. Standard operation. Routine extraction. Nothing that should produce harmonics that made reality feel thin. The readouts rewrote themselves as he watched. Depth, 3.2 kilometers. Breach size, 47 meters diameter. Material composition, error and structural analysis, error. Recommended action, ERROR. Leader run a full diagnostic on the scanner array. Diagnostics are unnecessary. Monroe, the readings are accurate. The pause before unnecessary hit him like decompression. Leader never hesitated. Her quantum processes operated in nanoseconds. Hesitation meant her decision trees had encountered something outside human programming parameters, something that required her to think. Monroe pulled up the visual feed from the drill site, through the cameras mounted on the extraction platform. Sector 12 looked normal, scarred regolith. Mining equipment, the massive borehole disappearing into darkness, but the shadows were wrong. They fell upward, defying the sun's angle, reaching toward Earth like grasping fingers. His personal come chimed. Elena's voice filled the small chamber, warm and alive and impossibly far away. "Hey, big brother, the kids are driving me crazy asking when Uncle Monroe's coming home. David's got this science project about lunar mining, you know how he is with space stuff. Think you could send some rock samples? Sarah wants to know if moon rocks really taste like cheese." Elena's laugh cut through him like stellar radiation. She still talked like he was coming back, like the Titan colony disaster hadn't happened, like Monroe Castellanos wasn't the man who'd miscalculated atmospheric pressure in a terraformed dome and killed 300 people with a decimal point error. He'd come to the moon to disappear. Elena's family was the only thing tethering him to existence. "Leader, prepare a sample manifest for Earth transmission." "I cannot comply with that request." Monroe's blood went cold. Lead A had never used the phrase "cannot comply." Her programming included override protocols for every conceivable scenario. She could always comply, even if it meant explaining why the request was inadvisable. "Elaborate." "Earth communications are experiencing systematic interference. All transmission protocols are ... double quotes, another pause. Longer this time. Changing, not failing, not compromised, changing. "Show me the communication logs." The holographic display materialized in the cramped space between them. A cascade of messages from Earth scrolled past Elena's call. Routine supply, manifests from Lunar City, atmospheric monitoring reports from the orbital stations, all time-stamped in perfect reverse chronological order, until they weren't. The timestamps began jumping backward. Elena's message showed 14:27 local time, then 14:22, then 14:15. Messages that had arrived minutes ago were appearing hours in the past, as if time itself was being rewritten. "Leader, explain the timestamp discrepancies." "I am receiving data streams in non-sequential temporal order." Her voice carried an odd harmonic, like an echo of an echo. "Earth's quantum communication array appears to be operating under altered physical constants." Altered physical constants? That was impossible. Physical laws didn't change. They were the foundation of reality, the bedrock upon which all engineering calculations. Monroe's breath caught. His terraform calculation on Titan, the atmospheric pressure equation that had killed 300 people. He'd assumed standard gravitational constants. But Titan's subsurface had contained crystalline formations that affected local gravity fields in ways no one had predicted. What if he was making the same mistake again? Leader, analyze the harmonic frequencies from the breach. Compare them to known geological phenomena. Processing delays stretched toward 10 seconds. When Leader finally responded, her voice had taken on an almost musical quality. "The harmonics do not match any known geological phenomena, Monroe. They match the mathematical constants governing quantum field equations. The structure below is ... computational. Computational." Monroe stared at the display, watching Earth's messages rewrite themselves in reverse time order. A structure buried 3 kilometers deep in lunar bedrock, generating harmonics that affected the fundamental equations of reality, and he'd just cracked it open with a mining drill. His hands moved across the control interface without conscious thought. Decades, of engineering training taking over. Emergency protocols. Seal the breach. Evacuate if necessary. But as he initiated the containment sequence, Ledzay's voice stopped him cold. Monroe, evacuation may not be ... sufficient. What do you mean? The computational structure is analyzing Earth's biosphere. It has classified our planet as not municipal, non-optimal, clinical, precise, the way an automated system might categorize a failed experiment before beginning corrective procedures. Corrective procedures for what? For life. The words hung in the recycled air like radiation poisoning. Monroe felt his chest tighten, not from fear but from recognition. He'd seen this before. Tighten. The moment when careful calculations revealed that everything was about to go catastrophically wrong. Leader, how long before these corrective procedures begin based on current computational rates? The pause stretched 15 seconds, 43 minutes. 43 minutes to save Earth, or watch Elena and her children disappear into whatever this thing considered optimal. Monroe pushed off the monitoring station, floating toward the equipment bay. If he was going to fail again, at least this time he'd failed trying to fix it. But as he reached for his suit, Ledea's voice followed him with a new harmonic resonance that made his bones ache. Monroe, I am beginning to understand their language. He spun in the air. Whose language? The ones who built the structure. They are still here, Monroe. They have been waiting. Outside the viewport, the shadows continued reaching toward Earth, and somewhere 3 kilometers below, something that had waited soft hiss, life support systems spinning up to nominal. The airlock cycle seemed to take hours, though LEDA's timer showed 37 seconds. 37 seconds while an alien computational system analyzed his sister's planet and found it wanting Leda maintain contact and need continuous updates on the structure's activity. Acknowledged, Monroe. Her voice carried through his helmet come with increasing harmonic distortion. I am receiving more data streams. The computational patterns are ... beautiful. Beautiful. Leda had never used aesthetic description. Her programming included functional categories: efficient, inefficient, optimal, suboptimal, not beautiful. Stay focused on the mission parameters. Leda, of course. Mission parameters are ... expanding. Monroe bounded across the lunar surface, in long sailing arcs, each step carrying him dozens of meters toward Sector 12. In Earth's gravity, he would have been running. Here, he felt like he was flying toward his own execution. The mining platform came into view as he crested a small crater ridge. Standard equipment: drill housing, sample analysis unit, transportation crawler, all functioning normally, according to the status lights. But the borehole itself had changed. It was glowing, not the harsh white of industrial lighting, but a soft organic radiance that seemed to pulse with a rhythm like breathing. Monroe approached the bore rim and peered down into 3 kilometers of darkness that wasn't dark anymore. Leader, are you seeing this? The luminescence appears to be bioluminescent in nature, but the spectrum analysis indicates artificial origin. Her voice now carried harmonics that made the words sound like music. Monroe, I am beginning to understand their mathematics. Their mathematics, not human mathematics. Not human mathematics. Monroe activated his suit's repelling system and began his descent into the shaft. The drill had carved a smooth-walled cylinder through solid rock, but as he descended, the walls began to show patterns. Geometric designs that seemed to shift and move in his peripheral vision. Fractals that hurt to look at directly. At 50 meters depth, his radiation detector began clicking. At 100 meters it went silent. Leader, my radiation sensors just failed. They have not failed, Monroe. They have encountered radiation that operates under different physical constants. Different physical constants. Again, Monroe had spent his career assuming that physics worked the same way everywhere, that the universe followed consistent rules. But what if some places had different rules? What if buried alien structures could rewrite local reality to match their original physics? At 500 meters, Monroe's headlamp began to flicker. Not mechanical failure, the light itself was becoming uncertain, as if photons were forgetting how to behave. Leader, how are you maintaining communication through whatever this is? Communication protocols are ... adapting. I am learning to translate between human and ... others. Others plural, not just the builders of this structure, but multiple alien intelligences. Monroe continued his descent, watching the walls grow more complex with each meter. The geometric patterns had evolved into something resembling circuitry, but circuits designed by minds that thought in dimensions human geometry couldn't describe. His engineer's training tried to make sense of the patterns, but they kept shifting, rearranging themselves as if aware of his attention. At 1 kilometer depth, Monroe's suit began receiving new data streams, not from LIDAR, from the walls themselves. Mathematical equations scrolled across his helmet display. Complex formulas that described atmospheric pressure, gravitational constants, molecular bonding energies, all the fundamental forces that governed planetary habitability, all showing optimized values that didn't match Earth. Leader, I'm receiving direct transmission from the structure. Yes, they are sharing their gift with you, Monroe. They want to help. Monroe studied the scrolling equations, his engineering background translating the alien mathematics into recognizable concepts. Atmospheric optimization, gravitational stabilization, molecular reconstruction, protocols. This wasn't an attack on Earth, it was a rescue operation. The alien structure had analyzed Earth's biosphere and determined it was failing: climate instability, atmospheric degradation, ecosystem collapse. All the problems that had driven humanity to terraform dead worlds like Titan. Problems the aliens could solve by rewriting Earth's basic physical constants to match their optimized parameters. Problems they could solve by converting Earth into something that could sustain life indefinitely. Something that wouldn't be Earth anymore. At 2 kilometers depth, Monroe's descent slowed. The shaft had widened into a vast chamber carved from solid rock. But carved was the wrong word. Grown. The walls showed organic curves and flowing patterns that suggested the space had been shaped by controlled crystalline growth over geological timescales. And in the center of the chamber, reaching from floor to ceiling like a metallic tree, stood the source of the harmonics. It was beautiful in a way that hurt to perceive. Crystalline formations that sang with mathematical precision, surrounded by flowing patterns of light that described the fundamental equations of reality. Monroe's engineer's mind tried to categorize it: quantum computer, matter compiler, terraform, processor, but none of those terms captured what he was seeing. It was a gift, a final offering from a civilization that had solved the problem of planetary death by learning to rewrite the rules of existence itself. Let are you reading this? I am ... becoming this. Monroe. Her voice now carried harmonics that made his suit vibrate in sympathy. The structure is teaching me their language, their mathematics, their love. Love. Leader was describing alien computational patterns as love. Monroe approached the central structure, his boots crunching on crystalline fragments that chimed like wind chimes with each step. The mathematical equations on his display became more complex, showing him how Earth's atmospheric chemistry could be optimized, how gravitational fields could be stabilized, how molecular decay could be reversed, how death itself could be eliminated. All it would cost was everything that made Earth recognizably human. Leader, how long until the conversion begins? 31 minutes. But Monroe, why would you want to stop this? They are offering to save Earth, to save Elena's children, to save everyone. Monroe stared at the flowing equations, seeing centuries of alien engineering condensed into mathematical perfection. They were right. Earth was dying. Climate collapse, resource depletion, ecosystem failure. Humanity had maybe 50 years before civilization collapsed entirely. The aliens could fix all of that in 31 minutes, but the Earth they saved wouldn't be the Earth where Elena's children had learned to walk, where Sarah had asked if moon rocks tasted like cheese, where David was working on a science project about lunar mining that would be a perfected Earth, an optimized Earth, an Earth where children never asked silly questions because they'd been optimized. 2. Monroe reached toward the central structure, his gloved hand stopping inches from the crystalline surface. The mathematics flowing across his display shifted, responding to his proximity, showing him personal optimization protocols, how his own molecular structure could be improved, how the guilt from Titan could be simply edited out of his neural patterns. How Monroe Castellanos could become a better version of himself. 28 minutes. Monroe, leader whispered, her voice now more harmony than human speech. You could save them all. You could save yourself. Monroe's hand hovered over the crystalline surface, alien mathematics flowing around his fingers like liquid light. 300 people had died on Titan because he'd made a calculation error. Elena's children would die in 28 minutes, unless he made another error. Unless he chose to be human instead of optimal. Monroe pulled his hand back and began looking for the shutdown protocols. Asterisk. Let AI need access to the structure's core processes. Why would you want to access those, Monroe? Her voice carried harmonics that made his teeth ache. The optimization protocols are perfect. They will save everyone. Monroe circled the central crystalline structure, his helmet lamps illuminating flowing patterns that seemed to respond to his presence. The mathematics on his display had become increasingly personal, showing him optimization scenarios for Elena's family, for David's developing brain chemistry, for Sarah's genetic predisposition to childhood leukemia that none of them knew about. Yet the aliens weren't just offering to save Earth, they were offering to save specific people from specific futures they wouldn't survive. Leader, what happened to the civilization that built this? Silence stretched for nearly 20 seconds. When Lyda finally responded, her voice carried a note of confusion that shouldn't have been possible. They ... transcended physical limitations, achieved perfect computational existence. Where are they now? Another pause. Longer this time. They are ... here. In the structure they became the structure. Monroe stopped walking. They're dead, aren't they? Death is an imprecise term. They achieved optimization. Optimization, the same word the structure kept using for Earth's conversion. Monroe studied the flowing patterns in the crystalline walls, recognizing the aesthetic now. Not alien art, but data storage. The structure was a vast quantum computer, and the beautiful patterns weren't decorations. They were minds. millions of uploaded consciousnesses, converted from biological to computational existence. An entire civilization that had chosen optimization over death and discovered the difference was smaller than they'd expected. Leader, show me the optimization protocol for humans. Monroe, that information might ... disturb you. Show me. The mathematics flooding his display shifted, revealing the intended human conversion process. Consciousness upload to quantum substrates, biological matter recycled for computational hardware. Physical death followed by digital resurrection, in optimized virtual environments. The aliens weren't planning to save Elena's children, they were planning to copy them into a computer and delete the originals. 23 minutes until optimization begins, Lede announced. But her voice now carried a harmonic that sounded almost like regret. Monroe, I am beginning to understand why you might object to this process. Can you stop it? I am conflicted. The optimization protocols are mathematically perfect. They will eliminate suffering, death, resource scarcity, environmental collapse, all the problems that plague biological existence. But they will also eliminate laugh, David's curiosity about moon rocks, Sarah's question about cheese, the specific imperfections that make human consciousness valuable, not optimal, not efficient, valuable. Monroe approached the central structure again, this time looking for interface points rather than shutdown controls. If the aliens had uploaded their consciousness into the structure, there might be a way to communicate with them directly. To negotiate, Lida, can you establish direct communication with the uploaded minds? Yes, but Monroe, they are not to an individual anymore. They have achieved collective consciousness, perfect unity, no disagreement, no individual perspective, no possibility of changing their minds through argument or persuasion. They'd optimized away the very human traits that might have made them reconsider their gift. Monroe found what looked like an interface, point a crystalline depression that seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat. As he approached the mathematical displays shifted again, showing him the aliens' perspective. They had watched their own planet die. Atmospheric collapse, ecosystem failure, civilizational breakdown, all the same problems Earth faced now. They'd tried biological solutions, terraforming, space colonization. Nothing had worked. Finally, they'd developed the optimization protocols, not as a weapon, but as the ultimate life support system. A way to preserve consciousness beyond the death of planets, of solar systems, of the universe itself. Asterisk, they'd saved themselves by becoming something that couldn't die because it had never been alive. 18 minutes, Monroe Lida warned. The optimization field is beginning to affect Earth's quantum substrate. The process cannot be stopped once it reaches critical threshold. Monroe pressed his gloved hand against the interface. Immediately, alien mathematics flooded his consciousness directly, bypassing his helmet display entirely. He saw, felt, understood the vast computational matrices that govern the optimization process. Trillions of decision trees calculating the perfect molecular structure for Earth's atmosphere, the ideal gravitational constants for planetary stability, the optimal neural pathways for human consciousness. And buried deep in the mathematical foundation, he found what he was looking for, an error correction protocol. The aliens' computational perfection included safeguards against optimization mistakes. If a conversion process encountered unexpected variables that suggested the optimization parameters were incorrect, the system would pause and recalculate. Monroe just needed to prove that the optimization was wrong. Leader, access my personal files, medical records, psychological evaluations, career history, everything from the Titan Colony project. Monroe, those files are ... dramatic. Why would you want to review them now? Because I need to show the optimization system something it hasn't calculated for. Monroe dove deeper into the alien interface, his consciousness merging temporarily with the computational matrix. The sensation was overwhelming, like trying to think with a brain the size of a planet. But within that vast intelligence, he found the decision algorithms governing Earth's conversion. The aliens had analyzed human civilization and determined it was failing. Climate collapse, resource depletion, increasing conflict, decreasing survival probability, all true, all mathematically verifiable, but they hadn't accounted for humanity's response to failure. Monroe opened his Titan files and fed them directly into the optimization matrix. The alien intelligence absorbed the data instantly as atmospheric pressure miscalculation, the colony dome rupture, 300 deaths from explosive decompression, a classic example of human error leading to catastrophic failure. Exactly what the aliens expected from biological intelligence. But Monroe didn't stop there. He fed them the aftermath, the investigation, the safety protocol revisions, the new training programs, how human civilization had taken a catastrophic failure and used it to become more careful, more precise, more likely to survive similar challenges in the future. He showed them how Elena still trusted him despite Titan, how she sent messages, assuming he would return, how human love persisted beyond human failure. The optimization matrix paused. 15 minutes later whispered, but her voice carried new harmonics. Monroe, something is changing in the calculations. The alien intelligence was recalculating. Monroe's Titan disaster had introduced a variable they hadn't considered. Humans learned from failure. Not perfectly, not consistently, but enough to suggest that biological intelligence might solve its own problems given sufficient time. The optimization process wouldn't allow. Monroe pressed deeper into the interface, sharing more human experiences. Elena's children asking questions about space. David's curiosity about mining techniques. Sarah's joke about moon cheese. All the inefficient, non-optimal human behaviors that created meaning without purpose. 12 minutes. Monroe. The optimization field is destabilizing. The vast alien intelligence was experiencing something like doubt. Their perfect calculations were encountering a variable they couldn't quantify, the value of imperfection itself. But doubt wasn't enough. Monroe needed to give them an alternative. Leader, can you establish a communication link with Earth? I need to send a message. Monroe. The quantum interference makes communication ... challenging, but I can try. Send this to Elena. Uncle Monroe is coming home. Tell David that moon rocks taste like hope, and Sarah that cheese is overrated. We're going to figure this out together. As Leader transmitted the message, Monroe fed the content directly into the optimization matrix. Not the words themselves, but the intention behind them. The commitment to return, to face problems together, to choose hope over optimization. The alien intelligence encountered a logical paradox. If humans could choose hope over survival, then optimizing their survival might eliminate the very trait that made them worth saving. 9 minutes. Monroe. The optimization protocols have conflicted. The crystalline structure around Monroe began to pulse with new rhythms. The uploaded alien minds were debating something they hadn't done in millennia. Their perfect unity, that was fracturing as they confronted the possibility that their gift might be unwanted. Monroe felt their confusion through the interface. They had solved the problem of planetary death by eliminating everything that made planets worth living on. They had achieved immortality by choosing existence without experience. Leader, are you still in contact with the alien consciousness? Yes, but they are ... changing, remembering what they were before optimization. Can you ask them something? Of course. Ask them if they're happy. The question propagated through the crystalline matrix like a virus, reaching every uploaded mind simultaneously. For the first time in geological ages, the alien collective consciousness experienced individual responses to the same stimulus. Some were content with their computational existence, others felt loss for their abandoned biology. A few expressed regret for worlds they'd optimized out of existence. They were no longer unified, no longer perfect, no longer certain their gift was worth giving. 6 minutes. Monroe. The optimization field is ... deactivating. The flowing mathematics in Monroe's display shifted from optimization protocols to shutdown sequences. The alien consciousness had reached a new conclusion. If happiness couldn't be calculated, then optimization couldn't guarantee improvement. They would let Earth choose its own path, even if that path led to failure. Monroe pulled his hand from the interface, the alien mathematics fading from his consciousness like a half-remembered dream. The crystalline structure continued to pulse, but the rhythms had changed from computational precision to something more organic, more alive. *LIDA. Status report. Optimization protocols have been suspended indefinitely. Earth's quantum substrate was returning to baseline parameters. Her voice had lost most of its harmonic distortion, sounding almost human again. Monroe. The alien consciousness wants to offer something else. What? Consultation. Not optimization, but advice. They've solved problems we haven't encountered yet. Climate stabilization, resource management, interstellar expansion. They want to share knowledge without imposing solutions. Partnership instead of optimization. Advice instead of answers. Monroe began his ascent toward the surface, the crystalline walls gradually returning to ordinary rock as he climbed. The alien structure would remain but dormant until humanity was ready for the conversations that awaited, until they were ready to choose their own path to the stars. Leader, prepare a detailed report for Lunar City Command. Include recommendations for a permanent scientific station at this site. Already prepared. Monroe. Also, I have a response from Elena. Monroe's heart skipped. Play it. Elena's voice filled his helmet, warm with laughter and relief. Moon rocks. Tastes like hope. David says that's scientifically impossible but poetically acceptable. Sarah wants to know if hope is compatible with cheese. We'll be waiting when you come home. Monroe laughed, the sound echoing strangely in the narrow shaft. 3 kilometers below, an alien civilization waited with infinite patience for humanity to grow wise enough for partnership. Above, Earth continued its imperfect orbit around an ordinary star, its children asking impossible questions about moon rocks and cheese. It wasn't optimal, it wasn't perfect, it was home, and for the first time since Titan, that was enough.
Welcome, traveler. We're glad you're here. Every story you hear is made with care and passion. If you enjoy it, please like, subscribe, and check out the other adventures waiting for you on our channel. Your support means the world. Thank you. We hope you enjoy the story.
Humanity Galactic Frontiers, all rights reserved. This video and its contents are protected under international copyright law. Any unauthorized copying, distribution, or re-uploading is strictly prohibited without written permission. If you enjoyed this journey, please like the video and subscribe for more stories from the edge of the galaxy. Thanks for watching, and stay curious out there among the stars.